Welcome to Besiege Bots, the home of robotic combat in Besiege. Tonight we will decide who will be our Middleweight Mayhem champion. But first, Determinator and Mental Hammer and Aseg and Occult MD will fight in a single elimination match to decide who gets to move on to the fight for third. After that, the winners of these matches fight a best of 3 to decide who gets third place. And to finish up the episode and series, we have the championship bout, a best of 5 between Zoltan 7 and Delta Wave. Let's not waste any more time and get straight into the matches. And here we go, Determinator vs Mental Hammer for a place in the fight for third. This is a death match, it is a single elimination. Mental Hammer with a nice full body flip using the hammer mechanism to tip the machine backwards. Determinator trying to position around the side of Mental Hammer. Mental Hammer gets a nice pop on the back gyro there, that's the self-right. Gets a nice hit on the top gyro, which is in charge of Determinator steering. Determinator is very lucky that I didn't break it. Another big hit on the gyroscope of Determinator. Mental Hammer gets off. Determinator rushing for the pit, trying to get a better position, but gets put into the pit after opening it. And that is a sweet and short match for Mental Hammer, who moves on to the fight for third. Let's take a look at our next set of competitors. This is another match for a place in the fight for third. Aseg trying to get a flip in on Occult MD, but Occult MD has actually removed the 2 center plows to ensure that it can bite into the plows of Aseg. Very good choice by the driver there to make that modification. Aseg gets a nice flip over the air pit, gets another nice toss, being very aggressive here. Misses goes flying again. Aseg hunting for the side of Occult. Oh, just gets a flip underneath the vertical. That's a tough one to flip, I'll tell you that much. Oh, but Occult gets a nice throw there. Being very aggressive now, chasing Aseg. Aseg trying to get around to the side of Occult, but Occult is not giving him any space. Throws Aseg into the air. Occult coming back again from the front. That's not where Aseg wants to try a flip from, because you might break the flipping mechanism, but gets a nice flip on the side of the chassis. Flips him again against the wall. Almost gets thrown again by Occult MD. Gets thrown a little bit. Occult MD looking for a bite here. Aseg trying to go for a frontal flip now. He is really going all out. Goes for that spectacular self-right of Aseg. That's got to score a lot of style points with the judges. Aseg still looking for a position from where it can flip the front of Occult MD, and right there is one. He just needs to get to the side of the vertical to hold on to a piece of the chassis that it can flip. Reverses, opens the pit, almost gets Occult to reverse in there. Occult gets some nice hits on Aseg there. Occult goes flying over the air pit, hits the wall. Aseg chasing down. Occult MD changes direction in time, gets some bites on Aseg's back. Aseg turning around, gets hit. Occult MD and Aseg both go flying and land perfectly. Some nice style points once again. Aseg gets thrown after trying for a flip against Occult MD. Occult MD hits one of the wheels as Aseg comes down. Aseg gets thrown again by Occult MD. Occult MD is just hurling Aseg across the arena right now. Aseg running away, trying to get some space so that it can face Occult MD face first again to try and get a flip in. Kind of struggling right now, getting thrown around by the vertical of Occult MD, but Aseg throws himself into the pit. And that is a very unfortunate loss, because this is a single elimination round. And that means that our fight for third is Occult MD versus Mental Hammer. Let's see how that goes. And here we go, this round is best of 3. This is our fight for third, Occult MD and Mental Hammer. We have some support for the driver of Mental Hammer, Dr. Doyle, in the background there. Doyle gets a nice hit on Occult MD there. Mental Hammer trying to stay in that spinner engine of Occult MD to throw it around by the hammer. Occult MD chasing, but not doing too much. Mental Hammer staying off the floor a lot, so that means that Occult MD does not get many chances to actually do something. Occult chasing. Mental Hammer positioning. He's really trying to lay into that frame of Occult MD. Did break one of the flying blocks, but Mental Hammer's volatile hammer problem became a problem once again. Unfortunately, that is probably effectively the end of Mental Hammer for this round, because I don't think there is anything that Mental Hammer can do from this point on. All it can do is hope that Occult MD either explodes by itself, or that Mental Hammer gets ooted to stop the carnage. Because, like, where do you go from here? You're a two-wheeled frame with one wedge versus a pretty much fully functional vertical. There is nothing he can do. All he can do is hope to push around Occult to where it's close enough to the pit so that it may drive itself in. But it looks like Occult is just going to dominate the rest of this match from here on out, throwing around what is left of Mental Hammer. Oh, and there goes the back wheel. And that means that is effectively the end of Mental Hammer. It is now completely immobile. Occult MD is it's not going to quite give him the pleasure of death yet. Going to throw him around a bit more. Now he backs off, and that is most definitely the end of the countout. And that is a win by KO for Occult MD. Let's see how the next round goes. Honestly, I hope Mental Hammer doesn't explode the next round, because that was quite sad. Here we go for round 2, Mental Hammer, Occult MD. Occult MD charged across the arena. Almost seemed to be ahead of time there, but it is okay. Mental Hammer gets a nice hit on the left-hand plow of Occult MD there. Positioning, trying to get that perfect hit into the engine of Occult MD. Positioning, pushing. Hasn't quite fired yet there. Fires it, hits the back wheel. Was actually too close to Occult MD to get a good hit in. Occult MD now throwing Mental Hammer around a bit. Mental Hammer gets off. Using the hammer again. Positioning. Really trying to aim for some painful spots on Occult. It's not really working so far. Gets in the spinner engine but gets thrown out. Misses. Is now stuck in the floor. Uh-oh, that's a problem. Oh, he's out. He is out of the floor again. That's the downside to having such a powerful hammer. It sometimes breaks yourself. All the physics in Besiege. Yeah. Occult MD positioning to the side of Mental Hammer. Mental Hammer pushing it into the arena wall. Almost gets a hit, misses by a hair. Oh, throws Occult MD against the wall there. Occult MD getting some nice hits with the vertical though. Mental Hammer positioning, gets another nice hit on the motor, no real damage done. Style points for the perfect landing. Another decent hit, appeared to hit the side frame of Occult. Mental Hammer using the hammer mechanism as a full body flipper mechanism once again. Gets a wheel ripped off from Occult MD, and... okay, I was wondering what happened there, but the hammer flew out. The hammer flew out of the body. I presume it hit a wall too hard, and then it broke. Let's see what happens from here. Honestly, there is not much left to commentate here. It is almost the exact same scenario as before, in which Mental Hammer honestly has no hope of turning this one around anymore. It's barely mobile, it's inverted, it's only got the two front wheels, it's getting thrown around by, once again, a fully functional vertical spinner. There is just very little it can do, unfortunately. I legit don't know what to talk about anymore, I'm sorry. Occult MD throwing around Mental Hammer, as expected. We've seen Mental Hammer in this position before as well versus Zoltan, like... There is hardly anything to commentate. Occult MD opens the pit. Will he finally end the misery of what is left of Mental Hammer? It's trying to drive him into it, and there we go. Finally pits Mental Hammer, and that means that Occult MD is our third place in the Middleweight Mayhem. Now, let's move on to the main event, Zoltan versus Delta Wave. And here we go, the championship bout. Best of 5. Either robot needs 3 wins. Oh my goodness, Delta Wave's engine has just been cut. Well, that that was an astoundingly short time for an engine to get broken. That must have been under 5 seconds or something. That was unreal. Delta Wave now has to score points almost exclusively by tanking hits to the face. Something we know Delta Wave is not very good at, as the frame breaks in half from falling a bit. And Zoltan's gonna, you know, beat the shit out of what is left of it until time. And that is the first round already over. Delta Wave got absolutely mullered. Wow, that was an impressive performance by Zoltan. Let's see how match 2 goes. And here we go for Delta Wave Zoltan round 2. Delta Wave up to speed. Hits a part of Zoltan. I couldn't tell if that was from Zoltan or Delta Wave. I think it was from Zoltan because it was a black prop and Delta Wave has golden props. Delta Wave scoring the hits, mostly throwing around Zoltan. Zoltan hits Delta Wave on the back. Delta Wave needs to get out of there before the frame breaks, and that's another KO by immobility for Delta Wave. No, not Delta Wave, for Zoltan, as Zoltan throws around bits of Delta Wave. Delta Wave desperately trying to get away, waiting for the count out. Just a last feeble attempt at resisting Zoltan, and that is going to be cease. And that's 2-0 for Zoltan in very short KOs. Let's see if Delta Wave can turn the tide in round 3. And here we go, potentially the last round. Delta Wave going straight for the pit here. Interesting strategy. Probably trying to move... Delta Wave hits the floor bouncer as it comes up. Probably trying to make Zoltan recoil near the pit. So far, not really working. Gets almost thrown into the air pit. Zoltan... Honestly, there's not much to commentate about Zoltan. It just moves towards the opponent and hopes it dies. Delta Wave is really trying to find an advantage here because Zoltan has that weight advantage of 35 blocks over its opponents, I believe. Let me recount that. No, 30 blocks, my bad. Delta Wave has not really taken much damage yet. Big throw there. I think that was a leg out of Zoltan that came flat. Yes, that is a leg from Zoltan. So Delta Wave is spinning in the same direction as Zoltan, which means that the bar can get in between the bars of Zoltan and hit pieces below it. Somewhat similar to the strategy that Downforce X employed in the qualifiers. Really waiting for that perfect hit here, but I think he hit the plow on the front of Zoltan there instead of the legs. He's really looking for those leg hits. Ooh, Zoltan recoils into the wall, as did Delta Wave. Delta Wave gets thrown at the wall. Oh, but Zoltan was almost in the pit. I was looking at completely the wrong side of the screen. Zoltan is precariously close to the pit right now. Delta Wave trying to get those leg hits, spinning the same direction as Zoltan. Gets thrown up a little bit. That was dangerous. Zoltan moving closer. Delta Wave still spinning opposite direction of Zoltan to make sure that he can hit those legs. Gets another big pop on Zoltan. I believe that was from the leg again? Yes, that was another part of Zoltan's legs. Not a whole leg, but a part of it. Delta Wave is scoring some points here for control. Oh no, but the motor breaks again! The motor must have been hit by Zoltan's weapon. Almost gets thrown into the pit from across. Oh, this is going to be a rough match for Delta Wave from here on out. It's actually not going to be a match at all because that is the back of the frame once again broken by Zoltan. Zoltan coming in for those last hits. The celebratory slaughter. And that is going to be cease. And that is a very convincing 3-0 victory for Zoltan. Delta Wave is our number 2 of the Middleweight Mayhem, having fought really hard to dethrone Zoltan, but Zoltan is going to be the Middleweight Mayhem champion. And so the Middleweight Mayhem comes to a close. In third place, the unlikely, easily damaged, but ultimately aggressive Occult MD makes it to third place. In second place, a spinner so fearsome only a bigger one could fell it, it's Delta Wave. And in first place, truly the epitome of the death spinner, curb stomping its way to victory, it's Zoltan 7, our now reigning Middleweight Mayhem champion. We really hope you enjoyed this episode and the tournament in its entirety. The next tournament will be all about the biggest bots, the heavyweight division. From everyone in the Besiege Bots Discord, have a fantastic day, and we'll see you soon.